Okay, everyone who's going to be here is here, so why don't we get started, and let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approving minutes, and now we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. So shall we start? I have 2 small comments, but I'll make those after we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. My 2, they're very minor. On the October 10th minutes, page 2, just underneath the voting box, it just indicated the general control systems, the low bidder awarded at the previous meeting. It currently says has forfeit their bid. It should say has forfeited. And then the workshop meeting on November 2nd is currently listed as a Board of Trustees meeting. It should be listed as Board of Trustees workshop meeting. So very minor adjustments. Anybody else have any comments or edits? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Next item is public comment on agenda items. So if there's anyone who would like to make a comment on the agenda item, on any agenda item, you're welcome to. It's not obligatory, just wanted to give anyone an opportunity if they wanted, so hearing none. There's no one else on Zoom, correct? Okay. Let's move on to regular business. We have a variety of regular business items. The first one is related to, this is the Dutchess County Crisis Intervention Team training and behavioral evaluation and assessment team patrols. These are services and resources that are offered to the Village Police Department. And this is an extension of an existing contract that we have. And I have conferred with Lieutenant Hildenbrand that he would like to continue to have this option available. And so this would be to extend the contract from January 1, 2024 through the end of 2024. And there is a motion that says what I just said. A resolution. And this is resolution number 61. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So
moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, issues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful, aye. Okay, next agenda item is PenFlex. So PenFlex is the company that administers the Length of Service Award Program, or LOSAP, for the Red Hook Police Department, Red Hook Fire Company. And this is a service agreement. It's all the same. There's a slight increase in cost from the year prior. And the services they provide is that they will manage the whole program. They receive the information from the fire company, and they, with their actuarial services, provide us the amount that we need to add to the program to make sure that it will remain solvent for the length of the program. And so I am going to propose, I would ask for a motion to authorize me to sign the service fee agreement for 23-24.
So moved.
Thank you, Mel Korka. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, issues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is actually related to 15 Prince Street. We are going to table that for this evening. And to our next meeting. And the next item, okay, the next item is the village parking lot. So this is proposed local law E. And what I have is, and so what we are proposing is to amend the vehicle and traffic regulation in our code. It falls under section 109-27. And what's currently in the code is that parking in the village leased parking lot shall be limited to 2 hours. All-day parking shall be acceptable with a permit only. Said permit is to be obtained with appropriate application registered with the village clerk, Village of Red Hook. Special stickers shall be issued to users upon approval of application, which may be obtained from and returned to the village clerk. That is what it currently says in our code. As far as I know, I don't believe the village has ever actually enacted permits, and we certainly don't have any signage around 2 hours, and we do not enforce any limits. So what is being proposed is that that section be deleted, and what be added is the following. Parking in the village parking lot shall be limited to 4 hours between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. All long-term parking is prohibited. Parking beyond the initial 4-hour limit may result in the owner being ticketed. Each 4-hour period beyond the initial limit may result in additional tickets and the vehicle being towed at the owner's expense. The village parking lot may be closed with 48-hour posted notice. These amendments shall take effect immediately upon filing in the Office of the Secretary of State. And so these are the proposed amendments to the village and traffic regulations. And what I have is a resolution to establish a date for a public hearing. Whereas a proposed form of local law E of 2023 entitled Vehicle and Traffic Regulation Amendments has been laid on the desks of the village trustees, or put in your mailbox, I probably should say. Now therefore be it resolved by the board as follows. The board shall hold a public hearing on December 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Village Hall to hear all interested parties on said proposed local law. The village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish notice of said public hearing in the official newspapers of the village on or before November 30th, which is not less than 10 calendar days prior to the date of the said public hearing. The village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the proposed law to the code enforcement officer and police lieutenant Hildenbrand for review, with a request that all comments be received on or before the public hearing date. The village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the public hearing notice to the clerks of the adjacent municipalities. May I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion?
The one question I had about the, in the law, it says the initial limit, for each 4-hour period beyond the initial limit, and that obviously references 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., right? And that's been
Yes.
checked by a lawyer. Awesome.
Yes. And also to clarify, and we had this discussion as well, is that we do have 2 parking spots that have electric vehicle chargers, and there would not be an exception for those. So the expectation is someone would have to, after 4 hours, would need to move from those spots as well. And the key, I think there, and I will confirm with the attorney, is that we would just need to have the appropriate signage so it's clear what is allowed and what's not. Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. The next item is the Neighborhood Mixed Use District. This is a resolution establishing a date for a public hearing regarding a local law, which is Local Law D, to clarify the purposes and intent of the Neighborhood Mixed Use District. And the change is clarifying with the following statement. The land uses most appropriate in this mixed-use district are either residential uses, commercial uses, or a combination of residential and/or commercial uses on the same lot. The commercial uses should be designed to service primarily the adjacent residential neighborhood and secondarily the village. Such uses should supplement the commercial uses on South Broadway and Market Streets. All development to the district should be pedestrian-friendly, with sidewalks and, where practical, a street facade consistent with the scale and appearance of the nearby village streets and structures. Mixed uses may occur on adjacent lots or within a single lot or building, such as a residential use of the upper floor with commercial use on the first floor. The goal and purpose of this law is to clarify that in the neighborhood mixed-use district, you are not required to have both commercial and residential on each individual lot. And so the resolution is,
Do you need to review seeker first?
oh, yeah, probably. Did you print that out here? Apologies. First thing we need to do is to review the environmental assessment form, Part 1. And we will go through that. This is the adoption of a local law to clarify the purposes and intent of the neighborhood mixed-use district. We seek to amend Section 200-12 of the Village Zoning Law to confirm that mixed uses are permitted on a lot. It's close enough. It's to confirm that mixed uses are permitted, but you are not required to have mixed use on every single lot. That's the purpose. Government approvals. The village board needs to adopt the local law. And the other yes is county agencies. It does need to be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development. The project site, is the project site located in a community with an approved local waterfront revitalization program? The answer to that is yes. We are not in a coastal area, and the site is not within a coastal erosion hazard area. In terms of planning and zoning, will administrative or legislative adoption or amendment of a plan, local law, etc., be the only approval which must be granted to enable the proposed action to proceed? The answer is yes. So we complete sections C, F, and G. So C is adopted land use plans. Do any municipally adopted comprehensive land use plan include the site where the proposed action would be located? The answer is yes. If yes, does the comprehensive plan include specific recommendations for the site where the proposed action would be located? Yes. Is the site of the proposed action within any local or regional special planning district? For example, Greenway, Brownfield Opportunity Area, designated state or federal heritage area, watershed management plan? The answer is yes. If yes, identify the plan. It is remediation sites B00177. I believe that is related to the property where the sewer wastewater treatment plant is located. And probably also Red Hook Commons. Is the proposed action located wholly or partially within an area listed in an adopted municipal open space plan? The answer is no. Zoning. Is the site of the proposed action located in a municipality with an adopted zoning law or ordinance? Yes. What zoning classification would amend the policy language regarding uses in the neighborhood mixed-use district? Is the use permitted or allowed by a special or conditional use permit? Yes. Is a zoning change requested as part of the proposed action? Yes. What is the proposed new zoning for the site? The NMU zoning would remain the same, but it would confirm that mixed uses are permitted. Let's see. In what school district? Red Hook Central School District. We've got the Police, Public Protection Forces, Village of Red Hook Police, Dutchess County Sheriff, and New York State Troopers. Fire protection is Red Hook Fire Company. And what parks serve the project site? I don't know. It says Abraham's Park and Memorial Park, neither of which are in the neighborhood mixed-use district, but that's okay. D is not relevant. E is not relevant. And F. F is additional information, and G is verification. And we will just change the date to the 13th of November.
There are some E's that have been checked, but that's,
Yes, and that's because of the way that our attorney has this form set up. And
Got it, okay.
Because I've asked that question before, and she said it's harder to uncheck them.
got it, okay.
So rather than try and go through and uncheck, they just leave them checked. But they are not relevant. We only
Got it.
had to do C, F, and G.
Wonderful, thank you.
Anybody have any questions or edits to what we have here? This, I think on section B, the very first thing, it says local law introduced November 2nd. That'll be changed to November 13th, because that's today.
Under the zoning C3,
Mhm.
did we want to say, because it says it's just confirming that mixed uses are permitted, did we want to add but not required? Like, further clarifying that you can have one or the other, you don't have to have both? Or is that not necessary to clarify at that point?
Yeah, let's add but not
Wired?
required per parcel. How's that sound? So it'll now say the NMU zoning would remain the same, but it would confirm that mixed uses are permitted but not required per parcel. And I think that I would change also the brief description. We're going to change that. It says seeks to amend to confirm that mixed uses are permitted but not required. On a lot. Great. Any other comments or edits? Okay, I think the approval of this will be incorporated in the resolution that also establishes the date for a public hearing. Sorry, I keep putting it in front of my face. So the resolution says, whereas a proposed form of local law D, entitled local law to clarify the purposes and intent of the neighborhood mixed-use district, has been laid on the desks. I am going to have to change that. Seems to be the standard
Yeah.
language, has been put in mailboxes of the village trustees. Whereas pursuant to Section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, proposed amendments to the zoning law must be referred to the Department of Planning and Development for its review and report thereon. Whereas a full environmental assessment form, EAF, dated November 13th, has been prepared on behalf of the board. Whereas in accordance with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, the board is required to determine the classification of the proposed law. Now therefore be it resolved by the board as follows. The adoption of the proposed local law is a type 1 action under seeker. The mayor is authorized to sign page 13 of the EAF, which is the environmental assessment form. The board is the only involved agency under seeker. The board shall hold a public hearing on December 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at Village Hall to hear all interested parties on said proposed law. The village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish notice on or before November 30th. The village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the proposed law together with a copy of the EAF to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for a report and recommendation thereon pursuant to Section 239-M of the General Municipal Law. And the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the proposed law to the planning board and the code enforcement officer for review, with a request that all comments be received on or before the public hearing date. Village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the public hearing notice to the clerks of the adjacent municipalities. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved?
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Milkorka. This is Resolution 62, correct? No, 63? Any questions, amendments, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You'll let me know if you ever want a roll call? Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is related to a proposal regarding the wastewater treatment plant. Let me just get to the right place. I have it in here. I am. Oh, of course it is. Thank you. Our wastewater treatment plant has been up and running. Well, it's actually been up and running almost for a year now. And substantial completion was reached in the end of March of this year. So we have been running it, the village has been running it for over 6 months. And the capacity of the plant is 50,000 gallons a day, and we are running at about 40,000 gallons a day. We have had several inquiries from some potential developments, and also we have been in discussion with the town about the possibility of supplying the area of the town that's south of Route 9 with sewer services. So it seems very appropriate that we would do a full feasibility study to look at what we should consider to be our full capacity that we should be planning towards, and how we would go about meeting that capacity. So our village engineer, Delaware Engineering, has presented us with a proposal for engineering services that would first map wastewater service areas in a 5, 10, 20, and 30-year planning period, estimating infill development in those service areas, estimating wastewater flows, again, in that same planning period, broken up that way, estimate the feasibility of expanding the new step sewer system for future needs. Just to be clear, the way this system was designed was so that it could be easily expandable. So the plant that we just added has a 50,000 gallon per day capacity, and the idea is that we could put another one right next to it, connect it, and then we would just add to that capacity. We do not have to, we're not starting from scratch. They would evaluate the feasibility of expanding the wastewater treatment plant for future needs, evaluate 3 alternatives to expand the wastewater treatment plant at the current site, and part of what that looks at is we have, I believe it's 10 acres, are part of that parcel, but all of that acreage is not buildable. And the other question is, what's the right orientation? Do we do them side by side? Do we do one this way and one that way? And because we'd have to have access to all of them. And rather than just put the obvious place for the second one that then might make the third one not able to be put there, it makes sense to look at what's the final look that it should have. Develop cost options for the expansion needed, provide a recommendation for a future project. This work is proposed for a lump sum fee of $15,000 based on the scope outlined above. And the fee was estimated as follows: engineer 2 at $140 an hour for 80 hours, which is $11,200. Designer technical support at $90 an hour for 20 hours, that's $1,800. And a senior project manager at $210 an hour for 12 hours for $2,520. They must have rounded somewhere, because that doesn't have $20 on it. Anyway, that's not the point.
We got a $520 discount by doing it.
There you go. Thank you for doing the math. So I would like to propose that we proceed with this capacity study, because I think we need this as a basis to go forward to determine what the next project should be. Developments, the developments that are in consideration, as I think most people are aware, there's the Cookingham project on the east side. There's a 12-acre property that is, the idea behind that is to have housing in that area, so that would be one development. There is also Anderson Commons, which is off Baxter Road, which is a project that was approved 10 years ago, but they decided not to proceed because they wanted to, rather than create their own sewer system, they wanted to be able to attach to the village sewer system. And now that we have one, there's that possibility. But those projects would pay for a portion of the expansion of our system. But they wouldn't pay for an entire new plant, because they certainly wouldn't need that much. But they would contribute towards it. So with that, so the resolution that I have just clarifies. So resolution to approve the wastewater treatment plant capacity study by Belt Delaware Engineering. And what I've added is to use ARPA funds, which, so before we get to the resolution, I've included in your packet a summary of our total ARPA funding that we were given and what we've used so far. And I believe it's on our website, but also I'm happy to share a copy. But in summary, what we received as a village was $200,101.97 in ARPA funding. In 2022, we applied several valve replacement projects that were done for our water system. The most expensive one was one at East Market Street, right in front of Yum Yum. And what was used was an insertion valve, which meant that the project could be done without turning off the entire water system to accomplish it. And there are a couple other reasons to use the insertion valve, but that is not an inexpensive project. So the total of all that work that included 4 valve replacements, a valve box replacement, and a curb box change. That was $31,529. Earlier this year, we agreed to use ARPA funding for our SCADA system, which is the system that manages our whole water system. We needed to upgrade our server, and we chose to upgrade it more than what we needed at that moment, because we knew that we would be upgrading the entire system. So we upgraded our server so that it is ready to accept the upcoming SCADA project that we just awarded. And there were software upgrades that needed to go with that, and that was a total of $23,053. And so the ARPA funding that we have remaining is $145,519.97. And so what I am proposing, what I think makes sense for ARPA funding is one-time costs, not something that is ongoing, because then we would be committing the village to those costs ongoing. And this is a one-time. I don't expect to get another $200,000 just wired into our account again anytime soon. So I think one-time things that can help us move forward with projects and the like. And so I am recommending that we use ARPA funding for this capacity study, which would then leave us with $130,000 remaining. And also, just to remind us all, we are required to encumber, meaning commit the funding by the end of this year. And we have to have spent it by the end of 2026. So we don't get to hold on to it forever. So the resolution that I have for you tonight is to approve the wastewater treatment plant capacity study by Delaware Engineering using ARPA funds. And let me also mention that what I'd like to do, and possibly at our next workshop meeting, is to get as many ideas as you all have for the remaining ARPA funding. There's several projects that we've talked about or have started on where it's like, oh, we could use ARPA funding. I think now is the time to say, what would we like to designate that for? So that we can plan that out and then make that happen, either encumber it or use it in 2024. So whereas the new wastewater treatment plant, which is, I believe on our permit, is listed as Plant A, but we are going to refer to it as Plant BK for Brent Kowalczyk, has a total capacity of 50,000 gallons per day, whereas Plant BK is running at about 40,000 gallons per day usage now. Whereas there are several requests and expressions of interest in being added to the sewer use area, including 2 significant developments in the planning stages that will require additional wastewater treatment plant capacity. Whereas the Village Engineers Delaware Engineering has proposed a feasibility study to increase the wastewater treatment plant capacity, looking at the full potential need and capacity to create a long-term plan for expansion. And whereas the village has unused ARPA funds that can cover these one-time costs. Now therefore be it resolved that the proposal for a feasibility study to increase the wastewater treatment plant capacity is approved to proceed for a cost of $15,000, and the cost will be covered using ARPA funds. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, discussion?
I'm wondering if Delaware has provided an elapsed timeline for conducting this project?
That's an excellent question. No, they have not given me a timeframe. I do not have that answer. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as they can get, I wanted it yesterday.
I mean, we don't want this to be a block on any future, certainly, but.
And a sense of time is you've got the 80 hours for the main engineer who's going to do the work, which is 2 full weeks. So I would imagine that a 2 to 3 month period would not be unreasonable. But I, as you see, that's not listed in here. And so I will certainly follow up and get an expected time frame for when this would be done. But no, I actually don't have an answer to that question. Are you okay proceeding without that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, before signing the contract, that's something I would expect that they'll deliver, but I'm okay moving forward.
I will make that request. Any other questions? Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, and then the next item is also or a proposal to potentially use ARPA funds. We have discussed a few times that the village speed limit, state law now allows us to consider reducing the village speed limit to 25 miles an hour. And we are also interested in considering a school speed zone by the middle and high schools in the village. In order to do either of those things, we need to do a traffic study. And we have received a proposal from a qualified traffic study engineer. I think that's the right term. Creighton Manning. And they sent in a proposal in 3 parts, and those 3 parts are Task A, as they refer to it, is village-owned streets. Task B is Route 9 and Route 199. And then Task C is Route 199 school zone. They did give us pricing to do them individually. And then they gave us a price to do all 3 of them. And the total for all 3 of them is $11,500. And just to be clear, we did ask for, and this is the royal we, Kim Bradley Reichert did this work. Thank you, Kim. We did ask other engineering firms for proposals, and there appears to be a run on engineering firms, and so Creighton Manning was the one that did respond. We have, in our discussions around the New York Forward Grant, and some of the things that we've wanted to do or consider for the village center to help reduce the traffic speeds, both officially with a speed limit change, but also visually, so that there's traffic calming, so that we just get people to slow down as they're coming through the village. I think that this is a good time to do this traffic study, or my point is that we can use this data for other potential grant opportunities. And it'll be fresh data. It's after the pandemic, and certainly traffic patterns. There's still a lot of traffic through the village, but I think traffic patterns have changed. So I think it would be very helpful, not just for considering the speed limit and the school speed zone, but also for any other project that we might consider as it relates to the traffic and the roads. So I would like to, let's see, the resolution reads, whereas there is an interest in considering reducing the village speed limit to 25 miles an hour as now allowed by state law. And as an aside, the state allows us to do that either by linear road or by area. If we were to do it by linear road, for example, if we only did this section here, if we only did Red Hook Estates, we would have to have signage in all the entrances and exits and every certain spacing, so there'd be a lot more signage. If we did an area, like right now, the village, the entire area of the village is 30 miles an hour, so that's why you don't see signs everywhere, but as you're entering, every entrance into the village has a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. So that's the difference, and we can choose to do either one of those. And that's why the groupings of the study matter. Then whereas there is also an interest in considering a school speed zone, whereas traffic evaluation is required before enacting a reduction of speed limits in the village to 25 miles an hour. Whereas after requesting proposals from several engineering firms, Creighton Manning sent in a proposal in 3 parts for a total of $11,500. Whereas the village has unused ARPA funds that can cover these one-time costs, whereas the village is interested in other traffic-related projects, especially in the village center along routes 9 and 199, where this information will be very useful. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the proposal for the speed limit evaluation as offered by Creighton Manning is approved to proceed for a cost of $11,500, and that the cost will be covered using ARPA funds. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second, I feel like Kim should get
I was gonna
the
say,
honor
Kim,
of doing
what
it.
are you doing?
Well, I was giving it to somebody else.
There you go. Any questions, discussion?
Just that it's really exciting. Yeah. I'm excited to see what they come up with. And
Me too.
I would say,
Lots of conversations about speed and the like.
yeah, the only thing I was gonna say was with clarification, with looking at the area speed limits, technically the Village of Red Hook doesn't have control over 199 and Route 9 because they're state roads. So this report would also allow us to provide supporting documents to Department of Transportation, who technically controls those roads. So we can make a request to Department of Transportation to say, hey, here's a study that says it would be beneficial to lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. But at the end of the day, because those are state-owned and patrolled roads, they have the final say in it. So this report will also support us for that.
Good point. Thank you.
And I'm assuming Creighton Manning has accepted all the markups on the last page?
Yes,
was
actually,
provided by them, yeah.
yes.
Based on,
Thank you for that.
sorry, and I'll let you.
Yeah, no, we went through that. The terms and conditions have been reviewed by our village attorney, which is where those changes came from. And Creighton Manning did provide us with the red line drawing for tonight.
Those are, important terms.
Yeah,
Yes.
they had it back to us so that we could have it ready for the meeting tonight.
Yes. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great.
Okay. That was 65? The next item is an exciting one. So we had a resignation from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I believe in your newest packet, you should have a resume for Janice Potter. She lives on Fraley Street. She has been in the village for many years. She's lived in Red Hook for even more years. And Lara and I met with her this morning to review, and I will say she's already done some homework and has read many minutes. Probably the key thing to know is that she was a contract, you have her resume there, she was a contract advisor for Simon & Schuster, so the notion of contracts licensing. So she's very good at understanding the details, understanding the rules, and I think she will be an excellent addition to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And so I am appointing Janice Potter to the Zoning Board of Appeals effective immediately, and I am requesting your approval. So I guess I need a motion to approve my appointment of Janice Potter to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So moved?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Super. So Janice, if you're watching, welcome aboard. We have some budget adjustments. Right, okay, we'll do the budget adjustments. And they're relatively simple. In the general fund, we sold some equipment. We had a police car that had no engine in it that was sitting by the old highway garage, and it was finally determined that there was no longer a value to the village for that. We actually declared it surplus, I believe, in July, and there were a couple of other items that we had declared as surplus, and we did sell them at auction. And so that, we just need to adjust the budget for the receipt of that, which is $5,229. And then the second change is on the zoning part. I had in the zoning per serve line that that was where our fire inspector, zoning enforcement officer, code enforcement officer, building inspector, same person, was all there. We are now doing that differently, and so it will fall under a contract expense as the per serve, which stands for personal service, which is basically payroll. And so it's just moving that to a different line. And then I added the extra funds to the material management equipment line, because in addition to the cost of the new garbage truck, there are also closing costs, et cetera, and so I put those extra funds in that line item to cover those costs. So I need a motion to approve the budget adjustment resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 66.
Six.
And I apologize, on the bottom, it says you all voted aye. I didn't uncheck that, so I apologize. So that was not projecting forward. The next thing, which is actually not on the agenda, but I would like to add at this point, Kim, if you'd like to talk about the climate smart community work.
So Climate Smart Communities is an initiative put on by the state for local municipalities to participate in a program to get them geared towards fighting global pollution and greenhouse gases. And Trustee Appenzell and myself met with a representative from Climate Smart Communities and Clean Energy Communities during the month of October to get a better understanding of what this initiative is. The board of Village of Red Hook back in 2019, I believe it was, passed a resolution in which they would agree towards participating in the program and to move forward with putting in projects that meet the certain action plans that they have. Being a part of Climate Smart Communities, you're given certain action plans and goals that you can do and mark off things like LED lights, recycling, composting. Some are a little bit broader, some are a little bit more easy, low-hanging fruit. But with that, Steve and I wanted to get a little bit more information on that. As well as we met with, we found out that Cornell Cooperative Extension has the great opportunity to apply for grants, which allows them to work with one of the representatives, specifically with the municipality, to basically put them on track and do some of that paperwork and shuffling around. So when the municipality goes back to climate smart communities, their portfolio is basically hand and fold, ready to go. And so we met with a representative by the name of Kelsey at Cornell Cooperative, who is looking for an agreement with us that helps her fill out grant paperwork to give them the funding to then work with us. So what I'm asking for from the board is a motion to allow the mayor and myself to sign the letter of support, allowing Cornell Cooperative Extension to apply for a grant to be able to help us achieve our goals to become a climate smart community.
And just to clarify, this is not committing the village to any spending, but it is committing specific spending, but it is saying that we, the village, are committed to doing what we can to achieve some level of climate smart community. And the real benefit of being a part of the climate smart community, or being a climate smart community, so you have access to funding that we wouldn't otherwise have access to.
Correct.
And so that is a good thing. And we're already down the road in terms of things that we have done. So the process will continue. We don't have to brace it. We don't have to do anything, though I think I think it's appropriate for us to want to do that.
Can I ask, what's the agreement that we're doing with the Cornell Cooperative? We're having a rep assigned to us, or they're?
Yes, so the letter of support would then allow Cornell Cooperative to apply for the grant money, which would then assign a representative specifically to the Village of Red Hook to work with us to guide us through the process.
Got it.
And they do a couple of different, they've got a planning tool, and then they got an assessment, and we can then choose what we want Cornell's help with. Like, if we want somebody just to give us a guideline of like, what's the best way to get certification, they can set up something like that. Or we can do a more in-depth meeting so often with the representative, where we actually go, okay, we're gonna hand over, like, okay, does the village have a policy on recycling, or is there a compost? And then they sort of put together everything for us.
And so then they are able to apply for the grant, so the Cornell Cooperative is paying them to do that work?
Whoever the grant, where
Yeah.
they get the grant money.
Yeah. Got it.
And
Awesome.
then we just provide a task force who's willing to do it, and then acts like information about if we have something or if we don't have something.
And so is that a committee that you'd also be building along?
Yes, we would be building that along, yeah.
Great.
And having worked with Cornell Cooperative on the certification for the town, their resources are tremendously helpful in pursuing this certification.
And that does bring up a good point, is that the town has already gone through the certification level, and because the Village of Red Hook is technically within the town boundaries, a lot of the programs that we as a municipality have access to as part of the town, we get to also count that as part of our credentialing. So like the recycling center, the solar farm that we were a joint project on and stuff like that. We don't necessarily have to do new things that the town isn't already doing because they're already certified. They can double count for both of us.
Cool. So we need a motion to authorize me and Kim to sign this letter of support.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Great, because they need it by like tomorrow in order to meet
Come on,
the
it's-
deadline.
it's Wednesday.
Sorry,
Come on now.
Wednesday. They need it by the 15th in order to
20th.
apply for the grant, which would allow us to get on this for this year.
Some just-in-time management. And the next item is a motion to approve vouchers after audit. And I'm going to add to this, we neglected to do that at our workshop meeting. And so this motion to approve vouchers covers not just tonight's, but also our prior workshop meeting that was November 2nd, vouchers. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those vouchers are upstairs in the conference room, ready for review. And then I just wanted to point out that our next workshop meeting is November 30th. Normally, it's the fourth Thursday, but that's Thanksgiving, and so we moved it to November 30th. Fortunately, we have 5 Thursdays in November. And then the next village board meeting is December 11th. And we do have a scheduled workshop meeting for December 28th. And with that, we move on to department and committee reports. And we start with our wonderful treasurer, Lori Urban.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, there you go.
All right. So here's the treasurer's report as of today, November 13th, 2023. And first, I'm going to report on the account balances in our different funds. So the general fund has $1,496,613.46. Water fund, $505,504.10. Our payroll clearing account has $35,903.06. The sewer fund has $113,855.41. Hardscrabble fund, $3,681.95. The Village Green has $9,046.32. Health insurance fund has $10,622.13. And petty cash has $52.93. Our current reserve checking balances are fire department, $7,595.74. Police, $17,250.61. The USDA, $140,362.25. Highway, $28,975.55. The snow reserve is at $3,314.66. Tower reserve, $17,901.45. Unemployment reserve, $7,100.78. Court reserve, $3,333.98. And the office reserve has $982.95. And our monthly expenses for October were general fund $165,549.45. Water fund $36,676.86. The payroll clearing account paid out $2,233.67. And the sewer fund had expenses of $7,330.71.
Thank you very much. A motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much, Lori. Oops, wrong thing. Okay, now it's on me. Okay, so I have a police report. For the month of October, there were 320 incidents. Of those, 193 were in the village of Red Hook, 111 were in the town of Red Hook, and 16 were in the village of Tivoli. There were 94 water tower security checks. There were 58 uniform traffic tickets. 28 of those were in the village of Red Hook, 20 were in the town of Red Hook, and 10 were in the village of Tivoli. Parking tickets, there were 8 in the village of Red Hook, none in the town of Red Hook, and 3 in the village of Tivoli. And there were 10 arrests, 3 in the village of Red Hook, 3 in the town of Red Hook, and 4 in the village of Tivoli. And just to add, Lexipol is the new software system that we are using for the police department to do a full policy review. Lexipol has 1,033 policies. There are a number of those that don't pertain to the Red Hook Police Department. The number that those are, don't know yet, because Lieutenant Hildenbrand needs to go through every single one. So to date, He has reviewed and approved 12, and several of those include sub-policies, several policies, et cetera. So just to point out that this will be a long, slow road, but it will be a terrific thing to have when it's all done. The next item for me is the fire department. Still no update on the fire company contract, still waiting for a response from the fire company. LoSAP, very excited to report that the special election we had on the referendum question of whether or not to increase the LoSAP annual award from $500 to $1,200 annually, I said that, passed resoundingly, 76 votes to 3. This change will take effect in 2024, and PenFlex is the one who will administer that. And just to the Village of Tivoli also had the same referendum for the Tivoli Fire Department, and that also passed resoundingly. So we actually have the incident reports for August, September, and October. And I did it by month. I did not total the months. The total in the village is 53. Nope, 63. Sorry. The majority, as usual, were EMS calls. The next largest number were alarms. Smoke alarm also can include a false alarm. And then there was one, nope, that not in these last three months, no actual fire. There was one hazardous condition or a power line down. There were 6 assist invalid service call, person in distress, and there was 1 good intent call or smoke scare. And that's within the village. Within the town, the ratio is the same. The majority is an EMS call or medical assist, and the second largest is the alarm, smoke alarm, false alarm, and then it falls off dramatically for the others. There were, however, 5 fires. It's either a fire, a building fire, cooking fire, brush fire, and there were 5 hazardous conditions, 9 assist or a person in distress, and there were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 good intent calls or smoke scares. And we are roughly at somewhere between 25% and 30% of the calls that the fire company has. So that's the fire company. Sewer project is next. So the sewer project, as you have heard many times, substantial completion was achieved on March 30th, 2023. We are working on the final. The electrical contract, the final punch list items have been completed. We are just waiting for final paperwork. For the general contract, there were several outstanding items at our last meeting, performing final inspection of each step, portion of the step system. That has been completed. Provide final spare step pump as part of the spare parts list. I was just going to say, we were supposed to get the very last piece today, which we did. O&M manuals have been delivered. They now have the correct cover. The record documents, otherwise known as as-built, which are basically the plans that show actually where everything was put, not where it was. There were some adjustments along the way. That is due this week. And then the photographic documentation is also due this week. There were a few properties where the grass has not been restored to an acceptable level. The reseeding will take place in the spring of 2024. I just received a list of the square footage, and the payment to the contractor is based on the square footage of the amount of seeding that they do. I will likely recommend that we reduce their final contract by the small amount of that remaining square footage and have our highway department throw the seed on the properties in the spring, just so we can close out the contract and do our final financing. But that is part of our final wrap-up. And so for financing, we are in the final portion of the funding, which is now coming from a grant from USDA. So we have expended $7,819,980.90, which leaves $627,137.10 remaining. A large portion of that is retainage. There is one change order outstanding, and those final contract numbers I just confirmed with our attorney, and I will be sharing that response to the contractor tomorrow. So we, with the delivery of these final contract items, we should be in a position to consider the project complete and then do our final financing, which takes the short-term financing that is being provided by EFC. We also have a loan for less than half of the project from USDA, which we were required to take in order to get the $1.2 million grant. EFC is going to provide the long-term financing, so they're going to pay off the USDA loan and the short-term financing that EFC's provided. So I'm getting a great lesson in municipal financing with the federal and state government. And so that should happen sometime between now and the middle of February, hopefully probably in early January, by the time everybody gets all their paperwork together. But we're on that final step, so that's very exciting. So that is the sewer project. Red Hook Public Library. They held their regular board meeting on October 19th. I attended for the first hour, but then I did have to leave for our special village meeting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 7 were in attendance, 2 were not in attendance. As I have shared, the library board commissioned a human resources report to review the process that they went through to hire a replacement director. I sent a letter, as did Deputy Mayor Caraval. There was an acknowledgement of receiving my letter, but there was no discussion and no relevant comments were made during the board meeting. The policy committee reviewed and approved a fixed asset policy. So all assets equaling or exceeding $5,000 will be capitalized under the following categories: land, building improvements, office equipment, and furniture and equipment. They have a fundraising committee that is focused on the 125th party and events that they will be, that's forthcoming. If anyone hasn't seen the invitation to their December 1st 125th birthday party, it is on the library website, and I believe everyone is invited. It's going to happen at the VFW post 7765. They just ask that people RSVP so they have a sense of how many people are coming. Alex Geller, who was hired as the library manager sometime in the spring, early summer. Alex Geller passed the civil service test for the title of Director 1. So a motion to appoint Alex to the civil service title of Director 1 full-time was passed, effective October 19th, 2023, for a salary of $69,000 a year. There was no record of Alex's original appointment, and this was not rectified at this meeting. The finance and budget, there was a statement of cash flows and balance sheet that was reviewed. It was noted that the election law 259 receipts through the school district are due in November. They plan to close out their small accounts at Key Bank. And there was a variety of movement of money that was approved in September that has not yet been carried out. Capital spending isn't expected to begin until the spring. So they have a stucco project, which is for if you just look at the library building, you can see that there are portions of the stucco that's falling off. And so they have that project, which is expected to cost $200,000, and they expect that, again, to happen in the spring. And then there's work to fix the porch, which is expected to cost about $72,000. And they've budgeted for a program manager for these costs at $27,000, if I understood that, what they were reporting on correctly. They did have an unexpected bequest, which makes the numbers very favorable. Staff expenses were below budget this year. Net income well over budget, primarily due to the bequests. Preliminary budget for 2024 was reviewed. Other notes regarding payroll. Current employees get a raise on their one-year anniversary. The plan is to move the raises to January 1 after the first anniversary of work. They're looking into the possibility of joining the New York State Retirement Fund system. If they do, they must offer it to all employees. The current budget iteration shows a small net loss, total income of $482,799 with expenses of $486,317. But that's not the final budget. That was just the first proposal. I was not there for the director's report, but his report is actually on the library website. The way to find these board documents is to go to the library website, which is redhooklibrary.org. You go to the Board of Trustees, and then there's some words, text, and in the middle of that text is where there's a link to the board documents, and then you can see all of that detail. And then the next meeting normally would be this Thursday, the 16th, but they moved it to Wednesday, November 15th, at 6:30 in their conference room on the third floor. And then personnel. Just another report on the ADP timekeep. All hourly employees are now using both the ADP timekeep punch clock, which is a software system, and also the physical time cards that we have been using for a very long time. We're still working out some final kinks, but we're getting very close. So I expect certainly by the end of the calendar year, we will be fully on the new timekeep system. And then just a note on communications. After several months lapse, because I lost my BARD intern, the monthly emailed newsletter is back. If you're not signed up, you can sign up through the website, or you can just let me know. I send out a monthly email newsletter sometime in the first week of the month with basic information about different things like brush pickup, leaf pickup, the sewer project, events, activities, information that I think or hope is of interest to those in the village. And so I did get the October issue out, and then the November issue was the first week of November, and I've already started the December issue. So if anyone ever has something that they think would be appropriate to include, please email me, mayor@redhooknyvillage.org. I would be happy to consider putting it in my newsletter. I do have a section on community events. Or if you have a question or a concern, I do get responses, and I really appreciate those. And pictures are always appreciated. And I was going to report that we have one vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals, but that is no longer true. And that is everything I have to report. On to Deputy Mayor Caraval.
Okay. So Red Hook Together. Red Hook Together meets the first Thursday of the month at alternating times of day and locations. Invitations and meeting times are coordinated by BARD CCE. This month's meeting on November 2nd, held at 5:30 p.m. over Zoom, was dedicated to the conversation of childcare in Red Hook. Representatives from Head Start and the Child Care Council of Dutchess and Putnam counties were present. A recording of the meeting is taken by BARD CCE and can be viewed upon request. Red Hook Town Economic Development Committee.
Milcorca, can you
Yeah.
just go back? Was there anything that you thought that we, the village as a municipality, should consider as it relates to childcare?
There was a couple, they didn't have many, this would solve it, sort of, there was a spreadsheet shared of all the different childcare options that are within the town of Red Hook. And there was talk about how many empty slots there were, but basically it was sort of a sobering discussion on how little money there is for childcare workers, and so that it leads to a lot of people not choosing the industry and or to open up.
Because I think there's a fair quantity of unused available funding for the childcare services.
Yes, but it seems like some of it is both drying up because of COVID, and so it's not a reliable pot of money, but also just that even if you were to get some of the funding, it wouldn't necessarily translate to being able to pay people more
Sure.
for the
Okay.
long term.
Thank you.
So, but one thing that they did encourage was the idea of trying to get, if you are getting new employers or, new businesses, to encourage them to do in business childcare centers, because that's really, really helpful for a community. So,
Thank you.
oh, I'm still talking.
Still you.
The Red Hook Town Economic Development Committee. The EDC holds public meetings on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 8:40 a.m. in the Red Hook Village Hall courtroom. The next and only meeting in December will be on December 13th. This past month, the committee met on October 11th, 25th, and November 8th. October 25th's conversation was about the marijuana dispensaries, as well as details of an upcoming farmers meeting, which has been just moved to January 11th at 8 a.m., also at Village Hall. This week's conversation concentrated on the T&D zoning district, and to that end, whether zoning laws have become a benefit or a hindrance without the infrastructure to support their full realization. More comprehensive minutes are available on the committee webpage on the town website. The Village of Red Hook Communications Committee. The Communications Committee meets every first Wednesday of the month at 1:30 p.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room. The next meeting will be December 6th. Past week's meeting was not held due to scheduling issues. We did make progress on the language access grant during a separate session. We have ordered language line signage and instruction materials. We have also posted bilingual signage in various spaces in the village building to receive initial feedback from visitors and staff. It has come to our attention that some people are unaware that you can receive village emergency alerts and/or service disruption notifications via email or text message. To enroll in the village's Notify Me notifications, visit redhookvillage.org/list.aspx. You can enter your email to log in, and then you can customize your notification preferences. Also, the mayor sends a newsletter every month, which you can enroll to receive at redhookvillage.org/newsletter. Village Events Committee. The Events Committee holds public meetings on the third Monday of each month at 6 p.m. at Village Hall. The next meeting will be November 20th. The annual Village Halloween Parade was a success. The weather was beautiful, and the turnout was even bigger than the year before. A huge thank you to the Red Hook's police lieutenant for leading the parade and providing the music. If you're interested in joining or volunteering for the events committee, please contact the committee chair, Amy Smith, by email at events@redhooknyvillage.org. The Village of Red Hook Human Relations Committee. The Human Relations Committee holds public meetings every first Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room. The next meeting will be December 7th. This month's meeting was canceled due to a scheduling conflict with the Village Board workshop. Last month's meeting on October 11th focused on deciding what kind of humanity-centered project the committee would commit to in 2024. Committee member Amy Boyd is researching storytelling workshops that we can possibly emulate and/or enroll in. In the spring of 2024, we plan to invite community members to participate in expressing our shared humanity in a communal art project, this time with writing as the medium. In the meantime, the Inside Out Project photos were published on the global website and can be viewed at insideout.net/en/group-action/we-r-neighbors.
Is that all the photos from the Inside Out project? Or is it photos of
it's
it on
the-
display?
Them on display, and you can see the exhibit both on Hard Scrabble and on the Neighbors Night.
That's great.
Yeah, and it'll live there as long as the website's there, which is neat. Red Hook has made it big. The Village of Red Hook Highway Department. Brush pickup is concluded for 2023.
Let me just clarify, there are currently piles out there that will be picked up.
Okay. Leaf pickup is underway and will continue until the first snowstorm. Please pile leaves in a row at the edge of the street. Remember that the highway truck cannot pick up leaf piles mixed with debris due to possible equipment damage. The village's snow ordinance is in effect as of November 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024. No parking is permitted on village streets and New York State highways, Route which is Route 9 Broadway or Route 199 Market Street, from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Vehicles parked during these times may be removed by the RHPD and/or any responding law enforcement agency and towed at the owner's expense.
Can I make a quick correction?
Yeah.
It's not a snow ordinance, it's seasonal parking law.
It's
It's unrelated to
clarifying that
snow.
it's not a snow ordinance, it's a seasonal parking law,
Sure.
because it's not dependent on snow.
Yes. I may have copied this from a certain trustee and assumed it was correct.
Not to be named, but it's named after a wastewater treatment plant.
Very fitting in this moment. Sorry. Property owners are reminded to remove athletic equipment, garbage receptacles, and/or any other temporary obstacles from the side of the street to prevent their damage during snow removal operations. The owner and/or occupant of every building/lot in the village with an adjoining sidewalk is required to remove snow and ice within 24 hours of the end of the snowstorm. The Village Highway Department, at the direction of the Village Board of Trustees, may remove uncleared snow and ice at the cost of $2 per linear foot to the property owner. Charges will be assessed and collected with the next tax levy. And finally, the scrap metal program. The revenue received from the sale of scrap metal during or since the last report was $464.80, which brings the total revenue for this fiscal year to $3,479.30. And since the program's inception, donations have yielded a total of $51,357.36. The proceeds go to the purchase of tools and equipment for the village highway, water, and materials management departments. Residents and businesses interested in donating scrap metal may contact either the village highway department or the village clerk's office, and highway department personnel will pick up scrap metal upon request. The highway department equipment. The highway line striper has been delivered, and the stencils to match our previous painted symbols are on order, and a small trailer to store and transport the striper stencils and any associated equipment has been procured as well. Seasonal projects, annual repaving. The paving contractor was able to schedule 2 paving projects before the asphalt plant closed for the season, and as of writing this report, are slated to pave Church Street Extension on Thursday, November 9th, and a section of Cambridge Drive on Friday, November 10th.
And they were successfully completed.
And we saw the whole brigade going down Broadway on their way to Church Street. They all waved at my son and daughter, and it was great.
That's very exciting.
With cops in tow and.
Oh, yeah, we
Full police escort, wonderful.
waved at the sergeant, too. It was great.
That's great. Let's see, trustee Lang, who is not here. So I'm happy to read that, except, do I have the materials management?
Did not submit.
I did not submit, okay. So we will have the materials management report for November and December next, or October and November probably, at the next meeting. The water department, however, we have.
I have 2 copies, is that just?
During the month of October, the water treatment facility treated 7,095,500 total gallons, which is an average of 228,900 gallons per day. That is a slight increase from a year ago, but it is a slight decrease from last month. All bacteriological samples for the month were collected and transported to Pace Analytical Services in Newburgh, New York, and all those samples were absent of coliform and absent of E. coli. During the month of October, the water treatment plant used 75 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, which is an average daily use of 2.4 gallons. No, that's not necessary. That just,
You're done with that?
I am done with that, thank you. And that is all. The Sawkill Watershed Community, has that happened yet? That's coming up.
It's
Wednesday.
That's coming up on Wednesday, so whoever is going to attend, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's it. On to trustee Bradley Reichert.
Okay. Good evening. For the Village Green Committee, blah, blah, blah. They met last month as part of the newly established quarterly meeting schedule, and there was a discussion about the history of the Village Green Committee, the tree plantings that happened last weekend, and recruitment. They also used this meeting for the preliminary planning for, at the time, was an upcoming fall planting, which happened early November. Additionally, they discussed the grant application and process, and the grant was successfully submitted at the end of the month of October, and found out shortly thereafter that they were successful in winning the grant money, which was exciting. And residents and businesses interested in having a tree or any trees planted on their adjacent village street or New York State highway right-of-ways, volunteering for planting days, or sponsoring a Village Green Committee beautification project can contact either David Pearson, the chair, or myself, or Jen Kavanaugh, the clerk. And the next regularly scheduled weekly meeting will be the second Sunday of December at 6 p.m. at Village Hall.
Kim, I'm not sure where you would report on it, but I'd love to have you report on the improvements at Memorial Park.
I would do that during this report. Thank you.
You bet.
So improvements to Memorial Park, I worked with veteran David Furrow and the VFW, who had donated 2 benches to the village to go in at Memorial Park. The highway department had laid out slab to extend the existing formation out there by the memorial. Additionally, we worked with Dave's Tree Service to clear out some of the overgrown shrubs so that the memorial was visible from both sides of Old Post Road and Highway Route 9. And the benches were successfully placed for Memorial Day, in which there was a little bit, Veterans Day this past weekend, in which case there was a slight unveiling of the benches, and the plaques should be ready to be installed on the benches in the next week or two. And so we are very thankful to Dave's Tree Service, who donated the services to remove the shrubs, and working with the VFW Post 7765 and Mr. David Furrow.
And thank you, Kim, for that. I know it was very much appreciated at the Veterans Day ceremony.
Very welcome. For the Village Sewer Department, we continue to meet regularly to discuss the final steps, and as we discussed earlier tonight, the potential project for expansion. We met on the 29th for understanding what these bigger plans are going to be, and to request the future request to connect. And currently, we are working on edits to the code to ensure that all documentation is up to date and accurate. As a reminder to all of residents, whether you're in the sewer use area or not, please be kind to your pipes. Please only put 3 Ps in the toilet: pee, poop, and toilet paper. And while in the kitchen or near other drains, no fats, oils, or grease known as fog, as they can clog up the pipes and make the system stressed. What goes down your drains matter. If you are in the sewer use area and the emergency alarm goes off, call the village sewer operator at 845-758-1081. Option 8. Only press the silence alarm button after notifying the sewer operator. Otherwise, they have no idea your alarm is going off. And please don't open the box or tamper with village-owned equipment. For the village speed limit initiative, what I wrote is no longer up to date, as we have moved past that and just approved the Creighton and Manning to do the engineering report for us. But we're really excited to move forward with that, and the proposed traffic study will help us potentially work with other grants, as well as looking at the school zone and lowering the area-wide village speed limit to 25 miles an hour. And they will also take information from existing studies to inform the areas of interest that would best suit village businesses and residents.
And I'll just add that we, Kim and I have been working on the possibility of putting a handicap parking spot in front of the post office. And because it's a state road, we have to work with DOT. And we are working to confirm what the appropriate way to do that would be. So that is in process. And did you want to say anything about the Greenway Trails Committee, or you want to wait till next month?
I can wait till next month.
Okay, you got it. Trustee Appenzeller. It's probably one of the few times that you go last, with starting with your last name starting with A.
That's okay.
Save the best for last.
So for the building department, it was another active month. There were 14 building permits issued. There were no certificates of occupancy, but 7 certificates of compliance and 4 municipal searches. There was 1 order to remedy at 67 Fraley Street. There was a pod, one of those storage units on the property with no building permit, which is pending. No stop work orders or court appearances took place during the month of October. There were 4 fire inspections at 7466 South Broadway, Mista, which, is almost directly across the street from us here, 7362 Tom's Garage and Kinder Music, 7578 North Broadway, Red Hook Business Park, and 68 Firehouse Lane, Max Agway. There were 8 complaints. 3 of those were at 7536 North Broadway, which is the former Keels, home of the future dispensary. There were complaints for noise and odor, which were remedied, as well as a site plan issue also remedied. 15 Amherst, a property maintenance issue that is pending. 8 Kent Road, there was work without a building permit, which has been remedied. 14 Prince Street, smoke chimney complaint, which has been remedied. 5961 East Market Street, there was a parking issue also remedied. And 15 Prince Street, unsafe structure, that was something we talked about briefly earlier and is pending to a future meeting. There were 2 notice of intents to inspect 20 Garden Street, which is still pending, and 14 Prince Street. So all of the activity resulted in $2,775 in fee revenue for the month of October. Planning board action, there was a site application for 59 Fisk Street, and that has been tabled to the meeting that just took place on November 9th. There was a subdivision approval granted for 7412 South Broadway at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, and a lot line minor subdivision approval was granted to the Cookingham West property. For the Zoning Board of Appeals, at the October 26th meeting, there was an area variance granted to 2 Cambridge Drive for a fence, and another area variance granted to 4 Kent Road for an in-ground pool. So moving on to the Public Spaces Initiative, the capstone event for this calendar year was the October 21st Fall Pumpkin Event, Pumpkins in the Park. The event was successful despite not great weather. It was kind of dreary and rainy, kind of keeping with the theme of many weekends we've had for the past couple of months, but there were well over 50 attendees. Pumpkins were provided by Kaseki Farm at wholesale, and the surplus pumpkins were used to decorate sites throughout the village, including Village Hall and Memorial Park. And all of the things that the Public Spaces Initiative does are made possible by the hard work of the team for that committee. And even though it's barely in the books, we'll start planning for the current event over the winter, incorporating some of the lessons learned, given the outdoor orientation of what the Public Spaces Initiative does. It's kind of moving into more of a planning and discussion phase for the winter. Wrapping up for the Pollinator Pathway, which was one of the original focuses and projects for the PSI. Work is underway to get the Red Hook pollinators on the Pollinator Pathway of New York website, and that should be taking place sometime next year. And there's also discussion, for a garden area around Village Hall and possibly in Abraham's Park as well. And grant funding opportunities will be explored to help make some of those projects possible. And where projects have been put in place, both at the community center and at the Elmendorf Inn, excellent positive feedback continues to be received. There's also ongoing meetings with the mayor and other town representatives to discuss the vision for Abraham's Park and with the Cookingham property acquisition, that opens up some opportunities. And there was a survey that was set up during Hardscrabble Day, also another rainy event, and that will be shared shortly. Betsy Brower did a great job capturing community input for what people's vision and hopes are for that property.
I think she may also have collected some additional information at the Pumpkins in the Park
She did.
event.
Yeah, so it's really helpful kind of getting that feedback, and we'll be getting a report on that sometime in the future. Bard College, there's been some discussions that have taken place. Ash Bradley Reichard, who chairs the Public Space Initiative, discussed how to work with local governments in submitting proposals for art installations in public places, and the class is looking to do a final project with outdoor artwork using Abraham's Park as a venue. And there's been some discussions looking over the code for being able to use village property. This year's exhibition will be a short-term exhibition, and probably taking place sometime during the week of December 7th, and additional details will be shared as planning proceeds for that. And for next year, there's some work underway to look at working with other local arts organizations for additional installations, perhaps of a more extended nature. And that concludes the report.
Great. Yes, I'm actually in discussions with our village attorney to create a form that ultimately should be a permit of some sort for that sort of thing, because also the chamber has approached me about a possible program to put, similar to the Cats and Catskill, possibly putting different types of animals around the village, and so making sure that we find a way to do that in a way that works for everyone. So lots of great stuff bubbling up around the village. Okay, and so with that, we're now on to general business, and I know that we have a report from the village clerk.
I just wanted to report quickly that we have concluded our tax receiving season as of the end of October 31st. And to just give you an idea, there will be 11 tax bills referred to the county for collection that were unpaid to us. The unpaid amount represents about 2% of the total tax load, so I think that's pretty good. But either way, the village will be made whole by the county, so we'll get our money either way. But anyway, we did pretty good with our collections, and I just wanted to report back on that it was done.
Super, thank you very much. Any other general business to add? No? Next item is public comment on anything? Any public comment? It's not required, just giving you the opportunity.
I was wondering on the police report, how many were actually stop sign violations? It seems like there's no enforcement on my street. I'm just wondering, 30 years I've seen one car get pulled over. It's irrelevant what the speed limit is. They don't stop, they're doing 40 miles an hour.
I don't know the answer, but I will look it up, and I will, if you leave me your contact information before you go, I'll let you know. Stop sign tickets.
I don't know that they do it that detailed.
We may not, but I can also ask the lieutenant. He can pull up a report.
I'm sure he knows probably right off the bat, but.
And what street are you referring to?
I'm on 15 Cherry Street, but it's intersection of Graves and Cherry.
Oh, yeah.
The entrance to the back entrance is,
Stewart's?
not Stewart's.
CVS.
CVS.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a shortcut.
Yeah.
Shortcut, but at night, when it gets dark out, the sign's invisible. 50%.
Oh, the stop sign.
50% maybe stop at night.
Is it invisible because it's faded, or is it invisible because
They don't care.
they don't care? Okay, they don't see it.
There is a street light there.
Yeah.
It like the others, the main drags, Market and, they have a strip of reflective on the post coming up. None of the back streets seem to have that. Would it make a difference in that? I don't know. But they just fly down through there, and by the time they come around the turn, bend, or build up enough speed, they're doing probably in excess of 45.
Going west towards Route 9? Or the other way?
Yeah, both ways.
Huh?
And it's a blind spot coming out Gray Street. You can't see cars coming either way. And coming out of CBS, you can look either way.
Right.
You can see up way up the street. The other way is blind, and we got a lot of people with the electric bikes flipping through there. Kids on the skateboards occasionally, and the people with fancy speed bikes, the lightweight things there. They ignore stop signs also. So the chances of them getting clipped by somebody ignoring the stop sign, I've only seen one guy get ticketed or stopped at least, because he did right in front of the police car that time. That must have been invisible too.
Yeah. No, I think, and you've said a couple things, and so I'll definitely look up if there have been or how many there have been. But it's certainly worth looking at how we can make it more visible. There are a couple of, there's the reflective tape on the post. There's also, I think you can put reflective things on the actual stop sign itself.
You can try just to post it, that's what they've done on Market Street and
Right.
Broadway. But I don't see that on any back streets.
Right, no, I think that's a great point. I also think that over here, there are some stop signs that are typically ignored. Yeah,
So that's my neighborhood too, and I just like to say, I noticed the same thing, people very rarely stop, and I think that probably the best deterrent would be to ticket people. Word will get out that if you run the stop sign, you're gonna get a ticket. The tape is a nice idea or whatever, but if people start to get ticketed, they will start to stop at those signs.
agreed.
I have a comment about the Keel facility there. It's the form to bring it up in, I'm not sure, but
Sure.
I've lived here 45 years, and I live on Cherry Street as well. And when you go in my backyard, if there's any kind of southerly breeze, they're processing outside there. They have a big sheet of plastic, and there are probably 4 or 5 young adults out there that are picking the weed buds off the stalks. And as the wind starts blowing, my backyard smells like a skunk. And I don't know if that was ever thought of or anything like that in the zoning, but the odor is incredibly bad. Now, I did complain about it before, and they leave, and they've done a better job of it, but there's a pile of marijuana brush, after they picked all the buds off, that sits in the backyard there, and it was there a week and a half ago. I mean, it was that high and that big around. And, I think that they should have some kind of, in fact, I'm sure they have some sort of law pertaining to, the byproduct of what they're picking there. But it's pretty hideous. And, if there's a southerly breeze, so it would be the Keel place, and then you've got sort of like the diner and Bay Rate's property. I'm right next to that. So, and I've lived there 45 years, and it's kind of, I've been one of the guys that try to make the community a nice place, and I can't stand it.
Well, I know that there was one of the complaints was related to odor, and the zoning enforcement officer went and checked, and in theory that was rectified, but we can certainly send the zoning enforcement officer back to make sure that they have done what they were supposed to have done.
It's not there now because the garage doors are closed and are not
Good.
processing out there. It's when
Which
have the garage-
they currently are not authorized to do that, so they shouldn't be doing that at this point.
Okay.
So feel free to call the building department if that happens, and the enforcement officer can go and double check.
Did they have a license to possess it yet, or sell yet?
They have a license to possess, but they do not have a license to, they have a license to process in another location. I'm not quite sure how that license works. They have not been approved to do that here. But they have not received their micro license that they applied for.
That would be the.
They had a provisional license that allowed them to process and sell to wholesalers. But they are waiting to hear, they have applied for a micro license, but they're still waiting. That, apparently, the response to that has been pushed to December. So
Is
they,
the facility just storage right now? Is that what it?
right now, it's just storage. That's all, that's what they've been approved for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the truck pulls in, they unload, and then close the doors? Is that the idea behind storage?
I would assume so.
Saying like when they're picking out there, that's.
And that's where the violation came in, and that's what the enforcement officer went and checked, and they have rectified that, as I've been told. Thank you. Anybody else? We do not have a need for an executive session this evening. We've already approved the vouchers, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Nobody wants to end the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Karen, before you go to recognize.